To the ETF Inspector. It's Friday, May 30th, and you know what that means. Friday means it's payday. It also means tons of trades because it's the day we roll all our options to next week. So in this video, we'll be going over the two YieldMax funds, ULTY and LFGY. Those are the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund and the Crypto Portfolio or Crypto Industry and Tech Portfolio Option Income Fund, both from YieldMax, both weekly distribution payers. All right, if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button. Help me get to 1,000. We're almost halfway there, 490. Thank you for everybody that's been helping me get going. I can't believe it's only been 1 month already. Quick reminder, also on X or Twitter, and I post letting you know videos are uploaded and ready to go. I'll also repost things from YieldMax. All right. So for the most part, today was a pretty red day. You saw on the thumbnail a whole lot more red than green. Let's see the biggest movers for ULTY today. HIMS was up 7.94%, HIMS and hers, and so that was the biggest percentage jump, and Palantir was the biggest dollar amount jump, although it was real close, 7.73%. It went up over $1.2 million in value. On the opposite side, Rigetti was the biggest loser percentage-wise, 7.91%, and IonQ, the biggest dollar amount loser at a little over $900,000. All right, so let's get a little bit more specific. We'll look at the trades first. So most of today, or pretty much all of today, is going to be closing out things expiring today, Friday, and rolling or selling to next Friday. Start out with AI. They closed their 2550s for today, paid $1.70 for them, and then opened 2850s for next week. So that was one that really jumped on us yesterday, kind of blew through the call strike. So that's why it cost us, lost almost $500,000 on that roll. CoreWeave closed this week's 110s and 112s, and then opened next week's 118s at both levels. All right, so overall $168,000 profit. I'll just back up slightly in case you're new here. So these funds, they own the shares, and then they do, for the most part, a collar strategy, and that would be, make sure I'm looking at the right one. Yep, collar strategy, and that's where they sell calls out of the money above the out of the money. I don't know what I'm saying. Above the current price, and then they buy puts below the current price, and they're kind of like insurance to protect in case the price drops, to kind of make up some value while trying to make money selling a call beyond where they think the actual stock price will go. So the hope is that they always expire worthless and you get to keep all the money that you collected in premium, but sometimes the stock price gets too high and you have to pay to close them out. So, all right, now that we're all caught up, back to Dell. Closed out their 120s for this week, paid 4 cents to close them. That's beautiful. Sold 118s for next Friday at $1.08. That's a $21,000 gain. Not a whole lot being traded in Dell on this fund right now. Robinhood, they kind of broke it up. They closed their 67s in pieces, paid 5 cents at one point, 16 cents at another. Either way, both wins. And then sold them at 67 for next week at $1.09 and $1.20. Overall, profiting $144,000. IonQ was the big dollar loser today. So they had a huge explosion. I don't know if it was the end of last week or I think it was end of last week, beginning of this week, but they've been falling back down from that ever since. So they closed out their $47 calls for 3 cents each. That's 3 cents per share, 100 shares per contract, 3,250 contracts. They sold new contracts for next week at $43.50 for $1.03. Overall profit of $97,000. Marvell Technology closed out their 67s for a penny this week, opened up 61s for next week at $1.20. That's $117,000 profit. Oklo closed out their $55 calls for this week and opened $60 calls for next week. Overall profit, not a ton, $215,000. I still wish they would buy 100 more shares, so this would be an even 3,000 on the contracts. Palantir, they had a couple different positions open, so they closed their 126. Those cost them $4.45 a piece. They also closed their 130s, much cheaper, 63 cents. And then they opened all 136s for next week at different times in the day. And luckily for us, the larger contract amount, 620 contracts, they got 243 per share on those, 185 on the other ones. But it was an overall loss of $167,000. It was just too much to make up, having to pay $4.45 per share on 620 contracts. Reddit closed their 107s for this week, rolled to 117s next week, so it's another one that got past them. Overall lost $278,000. TNA, this is the triple leveraged small cap bull. Closed their 30s for 50 cents, opened 30s for next week for 68 cents. It was a $92,000 profit. TQQQ, the other triple leveraged fund, closed their 72s and 73s next week. Both wins, right? 10 cents and 3 cents, and put everything into 73s for next week at $1.08, profiting $133,000 on the roll. And I don't talk about the puts that they purchase because they're just for protection. They're not worth talking about. They're almost always ending at a penny or a couple pennies. Tesla, this was another one that hurt. $3.55 was the strike price on the calls that were sold. They had to buy them back, had to pay $8.32. Now I want to say Tesla $3.55. Let's look at something real quick. So Tesla actually closed at $3.46, and their $3.55s, they closed them today for $8.32. So that's just a timing issue. At the beginning of the day, the market was up, so it looked like it was going worse against them, so they just went ahead and closed them, and then it trailed off all the way into the negative. So these, at the end of the day, would have been a penny, and instead they cost $8.32 a piece. Huge swing, right? That's what made the trades, the rolls on Tesla a loss, but hindsight's always 20/20. Well, we have 385s out till next week, and they're going to be pretty far out of the money after it dropped. They're almost $40 out of the money. So $223,000 loss. Upstart closed their 4750s and 4850s, put everything into 48s, so they went right in the middle for next week. Overall profit of $127,000. Vertiv closed their 108s and 110s, put everything into 113s for next week. So that's pretty nice. Selling above both usually means your strikes got blown through and you got to pay, but they made out fine closing these and getting to sell next week for an even higher price. $34,000 gain. And Vistra Corp closed their 162.50s and their 165s, even amount of those for a quarter and less than 20 cents, and opened up 170s again, moved it up for $1.08, $24,000 profit. That all adds up to an overall profit of $53,000 today. So we only had 4 trading days this week. Lost $400,000, made $600,000, made almost $500,000, made $50,000. So it was a profitable week. Not a lot, but better than a loss, right? Last week was a loss, 6 cent per share loss. So check me out later on this weekend. I'll make the week look ahead and the guesstimate video for this. But for now, we'll leave it there. We'll move through this real quick because now at this point, everything's been rolled to next week. So in order to not make this take forever, AI went down 4.35% to 26.59. Sorry, I didn't do all the yellow next to the things that were rolled. At this point, everything's for next week. Loss of 400,000. AST Space Mobile lost 2.1% to 2307. Loss of 230,000. Coinbase Global down 0.89% to 246.62. Loss of 100,000. CoreWeave up almost 5.5% to 111.31. A gain of nearly 700,000. Dell Technologies lost 2% to 111.27, $167,000 loss. First Solar is up 1.37% to 158.08, a $95,000 gain. Hims and Hers, the big, that was the percentage winner for the day, up almost 8% to 56.56, $800,000 gain. Robinhood up nearly 3.5% to 66.15, $477,000 gain. IonQ, the big money loser, 6.62% loss, nearly $1 million, down to $40.34. Mara, loss of 3.35% to 14.12, $300,000 loss. Marvell Technology lost 5.5% to $60.19, $442,000 loss. MicroStrategy down just under 0.5% to 369.06, 59, almost $60,000 loss. Nvidia lost nearly 3% to 135.13, over $500,000 loss. Oklo down 0.4% to 52.72, a 63 almost $1,000 loss. Palantir up 7.73%, the biggest dollar winner of the day, $1.2 million gain, going up to 131.78. Reddit up a little over 3% to 112.35. That was a $300,000+ gain. Rigetti lost almost 8% to $12.11, $676,000 loss. RH down 1.65% to 181.11, a $62,000 loss. Again, if you're new here, nothing on this side of the screen has been updated at this point. The holdings come out the next day, so we'll get all the updated information from the trades as well as closing option prices to make everything even out. So we have all of the information on where the market started today, and then over here is our closing. That's how we get our percentage difference and our value difference. All right. SMCI lost 2.75% to 40.02, $152,000 loss, and that's where I was going with that in the first place. So these losses are not they're not realized, right? These are unrealized. This is just the value went down. It can go back up. It's not a locked-in loss unless you sell. Snowflake up 1.66% to 205.67. It's a $150,000 gain. TNA, the triple leverage fund, lost 1.62% to 29.07, $175,000 loss. TQQQ, the other triple leverage, down 0.5% to 70 even, a $90,000 loss. Tesla down 3.34% to $346.46, $550,000 loss. Upstart up 1% to 47.17, a little over $100,000 gain. Vertiv down 0.5% to 107.93, $38,000 loss. And Vistra Corp up 0.5% to 160.57, a $58,000 loss. So the reason I'm not going into each and every one of these is we don't have a trading day tomorrow or the next day. We have nothing to look forward to, so I don't want to waste your time on that. On the week look ahead, everything will be updated. I'll talk about all the percentages in and out of the money for the options for the week ahead, the price ranges we want to trade in. All right. So overall, it sounded like I said a whole lot more losses than gains, but it was just under a $1 million loss on the day in value. All right. This is just our color coding, but we didn't talk about in the money, so we don't need to worry about it. It's a roughly $350 million fund at this point, and it's gone up probably $120 million just in the last month. So that's pretty big percentage-wise. There was 1.7 million shares added since yesterday, so it's up to 57,050,000 shares. ULTY closed. Is that right? I might have forgot to update that. Did ULTY close at 6:15? It sure did. Okay. All right, and I will also update the IVs now that we're closed for Friday, and they won't change before the new week. So then those get used when calculating the distribution. So make sure you check out that video. Next, we've got LFGY. Where is it? There it is. All right, we don't usually go deeper in, but since there's only a couple of them and they were all closing for this week and opening next week, we'll talk about them quick. So they only had a handful because most of them already got rolled the next week. So Coinbase, they closed their 282.50s and opened 260s for next week. Big win on closing them out for 3 cents, selling for almost $3. So $168,000 gain. Melly, that's Mercado Libre, closed 21. Yeah, I guess that's all they have. 21. Hang on, let me peek. Yeah, so they only trade like 21 shares at a time. Or 21 contracts, I'm sorry, because they have 2,100 shares-ish. They always have a weird number of shares. They bought the close for 75 cents, sold to open for $20.40. Those are some nice premiums. So they made just under 30,000 on that. MicroStrategy closed their 41s for this week and opened 38.50s or 385s for next week. Again, paid 4 cents to close them. Opened the next ones for $5.39. So almost $95,000 win. NVIDIA closed their 142s and opened 142s for next week. So they kept the same strike price. And on NVIDIA, they have a slightly different strategy where they do call spreads, not just the call by itself. So they were able to sell those for a penny. But bought to close for 7 cents, sold to open for $1.09, profiting 23,000. And finally, Tesla, they closed their 360s and 372.50s for 31 cents and 2 cents, but obviously the larger sum is on the bigger one, the 360. And they sold to open everything at 372.50, where they collected over $4.20 on each of them. So $65,000 gain. So for the week, again, only a 4 trading day week. Profit. They won every day. I'm going back and forth about it. I don't know that I'm going to count the selling of shares themselves into the trading because it looks like they made $27 million that day. So I might drop it down to just the options. So especially since the way I did it last week, even including them, I went back and did the math, even taking them out. If I took it out, then the estimate would have been like 30-something cents. So they must be including a portion of it, or else they wouldn't have paid 49 cents. But so again, check out the video later on this weekend where I total these up, use the IV, crunch a little math, come up with a guesstimate. But as far as value increases and decreases throughout the week, they went up 4 million, they went down almost 4.8 million, down 1.2 million, down 1.3. So Overall, they lost value, that's why these are going to look that way, right? If you win on selling calls on everything, then your stocks either stayed the same, or went down. So it looks like they went down this week. All right, so again, not going to dig deep into all the percentages. That's what we'll do on the week look ahead. Seems like people like that a lot. So BitDeer lost 10%. They were the biggest loser, both as far as percentage and as far as money. Almost 470,000 to 1286. Clean Spark lost 1.71 to $8.63, a nearly $80,000 loss. Coinbase lost 0.89% to 246.62, a $128,000 loss. Core Scientific lost 0.37% to 1065, a $21,000 loss. Galaxy Digital lost 7.4% to 1815, a $143,000 loss. So a lot of these, I will just quickly comment, I can't imagine they're going to let a 37% out of the money thing run all the way to June 20th. So they might end up closing that and bringing it closer, similar to other ones that are real far out of the money. GameStop, 0.78% gain to $29.80, a $38, almost $39,000 gain. Robinhood up 3.44% to $66.15, a $210,000 gain. Hut 8 Corp down nearly 0.75% to $15.27. It was a $37,000 loss. iShares Bitcoin Trust, that's IBIT, went down 0.88% to $59.46. That was a $100,000 loss. Mara lost 3.35% to $14.12. That was a almost $300,000 loss. MBTX just closed at 247.61. It's tough to tell. I mean, I can pull up the thing. I'm pretty sure they were down. Yeah, they lost 0.97%. So because they don't own the shares, I don't have a line item for tracking that stock price for up or down percentages, and we have no value gained or lost in our shares if we don't have shares. So they only trade options on that one. Melly up 0.7% to $2,563.29. It's a $38,000 gain. MicroStrategy down 0.42 to $369.06. It's a $53,000 loss. NU Holdings up 0.17% to $12.01, $7,000 gain. NVIDIA lost nearly 3% to $135.13, a $93,000 loss. Opera up 1.66% to $18.35. It's an $80,000 gain. PayPal lost a little under 1% to $70.28, a $30,000 loss. Riot Platforms 1.34% loss to $807, a $62,000 loss. Tesla lost 3.34%, $346.46 was the closing price, roughly $200,000 loss. And Block Inc. down 0.66% to $61.75, an $18,000 loss. So overall, we've got a $350 million fund that lost less than $1 million, and then a $115 million. So this one's a third the size of ULTY, and it lost more money. So percentage-wise, this was a rough day for LFGY. Lost $1.3 million. But like I said, it's a $115 million fund. There was no change in outstanding shares. Still 2,975,000. So again, when I go over on the week look ahead, we'll go over all the updated IVs. We'll look at the weightings to see, percentage of money. Right now, I know coins a pretty high percentage there, maybe the highest. Yeah. So. All right, if you made it this far, you deserve the dad joke of the day before you start your weekend. So thanks for watching. Again, please like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff. All right, help me get to 1,000, please. All right, dad joke. I child-proofed my house, but the kids still keep getting in. All right, that wasn't so much a joke; it was more just like a funny saying. But all right, hope you had a great trading week, and now I hope you have a good weekend. Thank you. Good night.